Bea Benaderet. Bea Benaderet. She was an American actress, and she was the voice of Betty Rubel in the Flintstones. She was known as Blanche Morton in the George Byrne and Gracie Allen show. And she was also in Petticoat Junction as the Shady Rest Hotel owner Kate Bradley. And that's going to do it for our birthdays for this episode. And a few notable deaths. I got this one just because I thought it was funny. He died in 1993. His name was Alfred Mosher Butts. Anybody with the last name Butts, I'm sorry for you. I feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. If I had that last name, I probably would be changing it. I mean, no offense, but I'm sorry. So if his initials would be A. Butt. I wonder if he was. Anyway, he was an American architect. He was the inventor of the game Scrabble in 1933. He originally called the game Lexico and then Crisscross Words. In 1948, unable to sell it to game companies, he sold the manufacturing rights to James Brunot, but retained royalty rights. Brunot changed the name to Scrabble and also changed the board and simplified the rules. It is now one of the best-selling games of all times. Butts hand-tabulated the frequency of letters and words using the dictionary and various newspapers to determine the number and scores of tiles. The word Scrabble actually means to scratch or scramble for something. This game is actually really popular with my family. You can bet that at Thanksgiving or Christmas, it's going to be brought out, and our family, especially my grandmother's side of the family, they are definitely going to be playing a few games of Scrabble. And we have some pretty good players, too, and some really good cheaters, too. Uncle Bill, I'm talking to you. All right, so let's go a little further. Carl Friedrich Benz. He was the German automotive pioneer for, I guess, one of the Mercedes-Benz. He built the first practical car powered by an internal combustion engine. Then we have Peter Cooper. He died in 1883. He was an inventor. He built the first U.S. steam locomotive in 1830 called the Tom Thumb, which participated in the celebrated horse versus machine race of 1830. Even though he lost the race due to mechanical difficulties, he proved the value of steam power. Up till then, railroad cars had been pulled by horses and mules. And he also invented a washing machine which was powered by the tides. That's interesting. All right, then we have the 9th President of the United States, William Harrison. He died of pneumonia only 31 days after taking office, making him the first U.S. president to die in office. His inaugural address took almost 2 hours and is the longest in American history. I definitely would not have been listening to that. 3 weeks after his inauguration, he became sick with a cold. Harrison's doctors tried several cures, such as opium and leeches, but to no avail. He died 9 days later. Leeches. That just doesn't sound pleasant at all. I know it was something that was well known to do back then, but I think I would rather die. We have in 1979 Edgar Buchanan. He was an actor in Petticoat Junction as Uncle Joe and Green Acres as Uncle Joe. André Michelin. He was a French tire maker. He died in 1931. He and his brother founded the Michelin Tire Company in 1888. He also started publishing the Michelin Guide, 1900, to promote tourism by car and thus boost the tire industry. That makes sense. Travel more, use more tires. Sounds like a good marketing campaign to me. All right, so that is going to do it for our notable deaths today in history. And that's going to bring us to our Featured story in history. Today's featured story in history is the headline that says Lana Turner's boyfriend killed by her daughter. This happened in 1958, and it says, while movie star Lana Turner's gangster boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato Jr., was beating her in her Beverly Hills bedroom, Turner's 14-year-old daughter rushed in and fatally stabbed him with a carving knife. It was later ruled as self-defense. I did a little digging, and the reason why this is our featured story is there's some of these that I want to just do a little deep dive into and kind of do a little digging into history and kind of tell a little bit of the story behind it. And so I did a little bit of research on this and started looking more into it, and it's kind of caught my attention. It was kind of interesting. There had been a history of domestic violence between him and her, with him beating her up several times and even choking her on set a couple of times, all culminating on April the 4th. Around 8 p.m. on Friday, April the 4th, Stompanato arrived at Turner's rented home at 730 North Bedford Drive in Beverly Hills. The two had begun arguing heatedly in the bedroom, during which Stompanato threatened to kill Turner, her daughter, and her mother. Fearing that her mother's life was in danger, Cheryl, who had been watching television in the adjacent room, grabbed a kitchen knife and ran to Turner's defense. According to testimony provided by Turner, Cheryl, who had been listening to the couple's fight behind the closed door, stabbed Stompanato in the stomach when Turner attempted to usher him out of the bedroom, killing him. Turner testified that she initially believed Cheryl had punched him, but realized he had been stabbed when he collapsed and he saw blood on his shirt. Because of Turner's fame and the fact that the killing involved her teenage daughter, the case quickly became a media sensation. I wonder how much of a sensation it would have been if it had happened today. That would have been absolutely insane with the involvement of social media and how stupid and crazy our liberal media is now. Anyway, more than 100 reporters and journalists attended the April 12, 1958 inquest, described by attendees as near riotous. After 4 hours of testimony and approximately 25 minutes of deliberation, the jury deemed the killing as a justifiable homicide. Cheryl remained a temporary ward of the court until April 24th, when a juvenile court hearing was held, during which the judge expressed concerns over her receiving proper parental supervision. She was ultimately released to the care of her grandmother and was ordered to regularly visit a psychiatrist alongside her parents. Though Turner and her daughter were exonerated of any wrongdoing, public opinion on the event was varied, with numerous publications intimating that Turner's testimony at the inquest was a performance. Life magazine published a photo of Turner testifying in court, along with stills of her in courtroom scenes from 3 of her films. The scandal also coincided with the release of Another Time, Another Place, and the film was met with poor box office receipts and a lackluster critical response. Stompanato's family in Illinois sought a wrongful death suit of $750,000 in damages against both Turner and her ex-husband Steve Crane. In the suit, Stompanato's son alleged that Turner had been responsible for his death and that her daughter had taken the blame. The suit was settled out of court for a reported $20,000. Well, that's all right. That was quite small. That's chump change. Looking for what they were wanting, though. In a 1962 novel by Harold Robbins entitled "Where Love Is Gone" and its subsequent film adaptation were inspired by the event. Now, this was not the first time that there had been a murder in Lana Turner's family. In December 14th, 1930, her father won some money at a traveling craps game, which, that is a side note, why did they call it craps? That is one of the worst names that any game could ever have, in my opinion. And then traveling craps. Sounds like a bad case of diarrhea. Anyway, he won some money at a traveling craps game and stuffed his winnings in his left side. Now all I can think of is him stuffing a bunch of diarrhea in his left sock. Anyway, he stuffed his winnings in his left sock and headed for home. He was later found bludgeoned to death on the corner of Minnesota and Mariposa Streets on the edge of San Francisco's Potrero Hill and the Dog Patch district, with his left shoe and sock missing. His robbery and homicide were never solved, and his death had a profound effect on Turner. I know that my father's sweetness and gaiety, his warmth and his tragedy have never been far from me, she later said. That and a sense of loss and of growing up too fast. So it seems to me that Lana Turner was going into looking deeper into her history and her story. She really had a really bad life, it seemed to me. So anyone around her just seemed to run into trouble, and she looked like she had some really bad financial woes, and she just was not in a good place in her life at a lot of times. So, but anyway, that is our deep dive on this day in history. So, that is going to be it for today. Thank y'all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the part 2 of this episode. And I think I'm going to kind of do this style for a little while. I'm going to try to go do a little history, and then maybe do a deep dive into something that happened that day in history, and give maybe a few unknown facts about what's been going on, what happened, and what's been going on. So I want to thank y'all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. This is going to be it for this week, and I am going to go spend some time with my wife. We've been watching Gotham, and great show if you haven't seen it. It talks about the origins of a lot of the villains in the Gotham Batman saga. So if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. So this has been Today in History by the Naptime Podcast. Thank y'all so much, and I want to thank my wife Leslie for letting me take the time to do this show. I want to thank Luke Pixler for providing the music that you're hearing in the background now. I also want to thank thisdayintrivia.com for the information, and also Wikipedia for some of the background on my deep dive. So thank y'all so much. If you have any questions or any ideas or anything you'd like me to do a deep dive on, send me a message. Reach out to me. I'd love to know what you think about the show, and I'd love to hear more from you. Let me know what you think. Find me on Apple Podcasts. You can find me on Spotify. You can send me an email. You can send me an email at project323media@gmail.com. And also you can find us on Facebook at Project 323 Media. Thank y'all so much, and y'all have a great day.